Everyone, I'm Rizalmi El Cahiles from Grade 12 Precision, and today we will talking about the ingredients used for baking. There are six ingredients often used in baking: flour, fats and oil, sweetener, milk, leavening agents, and salt. Flour provides the structure in baked goods. Wheat flour contains proteins that interact with each other when mixed with water, forming gluten. It is this elastic gluten framework which stretches to contain the expanding leavening gases during rising. The protein content of all the flour affects the strength of a dough. Five types of flour. All-purpose flour, mild from a mixture of soft and hard wheat. Cake flour. It is a bleached flour significantly containing more soft wheat or low-protein wheat. Bread flour or first-class flour. Strongest of all flours, providing the most structural support. Bleached all-purpose flour. Slightly acidic and interferes with leavener, helping baked good rise to full potential. Unbleached all-purpose flour, preferred by bakers especially in baking bread. Their uses: all-purpose flour is appropriate for a variety of baked items, including bread, biscuits, pizza, cookies, muffins, and more. Cake flour is good for brownies, layer cakes, cupcakes, and quick breads. It can also be used for pastries and sweets to make it light and fluffy, while bread flour can benefit all pastries. Next is fats and oils. Fats came from a variety of animals and plants, while oils are mostly from plants. There are five types of fats and oil. We have butter. It's a dairy product made from the solid components in milk, fat, and protein. The typical butter is unsalted and in the category of sweet cream butter. You will also find salted butter, which has a small amount of salt added as a preservative. Next is lard. Lard is a white, soft fat obtained from pigs. It has a distinctive flavor and unique crystal structure which enhances flakiness in pie crusts. Its high smoke point makes it popular for frying and cooking applications. Next is oil. Oil is a plant-derived fat that remains liquid at room temperature. It can be obtained from soybean, sunflower, corn, linseed, palm, coconut, rapeseed, olives, peanut, canola, and many more plants. Next is margarine, first made in France of 1869, used for flavoring, baking, and cooking. Modern margarine is made mainly of refined vegetable oil and water. Last is shortening. Shortening is any solid fat at room temperature that is used to make crumbly pastry and other food products. Although butter is solid at room temperature and is commonly used in pastry, the term shortening is rarely used to apply to butter and is more closely related to margarine. Their uses: butter. It is used in baking, sauce making, pan frying, and other cooking processes. Butter is most commonly prepared from cow's milk, but it can also be made from the milk of other mammals such as sheep, goats, buffalo, and yaks. Margarine. Texture, mouthfeel, and other sensory qualities to baked foods. Its other functions include prolonging the shelf life of a product. Oil. Probably the biggest function of oil in most baking recipes is to keep your product moist. Next is sweetener. Sweeteners are food additives that are used to add sweetness to meals or as a tabletop sweetener. We have 5 types of sweeteners. We have brown sugar demerara, or dark or light flavor depends also on color, with light caramel taste, texture like granulated, minimally refined from cane sugar. Next is granulated sugar, also called refined table or white sugar, the most common type of sugar, made from sugar cane or sugar beets. Muscovado, unrefined cane sugar in which molasses is not removed. Dark to light in color, wet, sticky, and sandy texture. Has stronger flavor. Pearl sugar, also called nib sugar or hale sugar. Coarse and hard texture, holds its shape and doesn't melt when exposed to high heat. Last is sanding sugar, fairly resistant to high heat and gives extra crunch to cookies. May be available colored. Their uses: brown sugar demerara. Soft brown sugar is more widely suited to the baking of sponge cakes, biscuits, and pastries. Pearl sugar, commonly used in Scandinavian baking to decorate cookies, buns, and pastries, while sanding sugar, primarily used for decorating. Next is milk. Milk products contain an enzyme that is harmful to gluten development in yeast bakes. To prevent this, you can scald the milk, which means heating the milk to just before boiling and then letting it cool to room temperature again. 5 types of milk. Evaporated milk. Simply reduce milk to an extremely creamy liquid by boiling off most of the milk's water content. You get a naturally sweet milk substitute with no added sugar. Next is condensed milk. Traditionally cow's milk that has much of the water content boiled away and then sugar added. Whole milk. Whole milk contains no milk fat and it is not fortified with vitamin A, as are the other forms of reduced fat milk. Whole milk has a creamier and richer flavor than reduced fat milks. Next is buttermilk. Cultured or soured milk is fresh milk that has been cultured or soured by bacteria. Lactose in milk is converted to lactic acid due to the presence of bacteria. Last is low-fat milk. Milk that contains 1% milk fat, although many people perceive skim milk to be low fat because it contains 1% or less milk fat. The normal classification of low-fat milk is 1% low-fat milk. Their uses: evaporated milk. Bakers frequently use it as a cream alternative to help lower fat content. Low-fat milk. It can also be used in almost everything that ordinary milk is used for. It just won't have the same creamy taste and baked items will be slightly less soft as a result. Last is whole milk. It softens the baked item, adds moisture, and aids in browning. Next is leavening agents. The release of gases within such mixes causes doughs and batters to expand. Air, steam, yeast, baking powder, and baking soda are examples of such agents. Air, including the use of mechanical leavening agents. When trapped air is heated, it expands. Steam, this happens when you cook at an extremely high temperature. The batter must be able to hold in the steam until it is set. When heated, steam expands and produces the leavening action. Popovers and puffs pastry are examples of this. Baking soda, also known as bicarbonate of soda or sodium. Bicarbonate, this fine with white powder, is made up of alkaline salts. Baking soda requires an acidic component to activate it, such as molasses, honey, fruit or fruit juice, lemon juice, yogurt, and so on. Baker yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, is a harmless microorganism whose major purpose is to convert fermentable sugars in dough into carbon dioxide and ethanol. Baking powder, in the presence of fluids and heat, a fine white material interacts releasing carbon dioxide. Baking powder contains a natural acid that activates it. Their uses: baker's yeast causes dough to rise. Yeast, in addition to adding taste, produces carbon dioxide in the dough. It stretches and expands as a result of this. Baking powder, used to increase the volume and lighten the texture of baked goods. Baking soda, it combines with an acid to produce carbon dioxide or a large number of bubbles, allowing cakes, cookies, and other baked goods to rise. Next is salt. Salt is a mineral that is mostly made up of sodium chloride, a chemical component that belongs to the wider class of salt. Salt, the oldest of food seasonings, is required for life in general. Salting is an important way of food preservation. Four types of salt. We have coarse salt. Coarse salt is just a large grained salt crystal. As a result, it can be both sea salt and mint salt. Kosher salt. Kosher salt is a flaky, coarse grained salt. It is popular among cooks since it's easy to pinch and handle and has no additives, such as iodine or anti-caking chemicals. It is also less pungent than table salt and dissolves quickly. Sea salt. In baked goods, you want the salt to disseminate evenly throughout the recipe to smooth out the flavor, rather than showing up in large salty chunks. Table salt. Table salt is a finely ground, highly refined mined salt. Table salt, like all salts, has additional functions in cooking and baking. Their uses: kosher salt comes in the coarse grain and a fine grain. The fine grain is great for baking because it disperses quickly into ingredients. Sea salt is a great ingredient to sprinkle on top of dishes as a way to give recipes added color, flavor, and crunch. Table salt is accentuates other flavors, keep foods juicy, as in brine, aids in bread gluten formation, and helps give bread a flavorful dark crust. That's all, and thank you.